Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the sandbox mode, in which we are going to be doing a little bit of science. In today's episode, we are going to be trying to build a tactical nuke drone, which can be replicated over and over again during a battle, which should hopefully provide quite a good distraction force, and an incredible amount of destruction if it does indeed work. Now, this is going to be far more of a science episode than usual, because I've never built a drone in this way. We're going to be taking a lot of inspiration from the Dragon's Claw from the White Flayers. So the reason why the Dragon's Claw is such an amazing melee vehicle is because of how it uses its thrusters. Rather than simply having the thrusters anchored onto the main vehicle like so, it instead has the thrusters attached to 2-axis turrets, which simply track the opponent, which means the thrusters are always pointing at the enemy, no matter how fast the enemy is moving. This means its ability to suddenly turn, stop on the spot, or flip is really, really good. So what we're going to try and do is make a really cheap, tiny version of the Dragon's Claw, and of course, use nukes as the main weapon. I want the overall cost of this thing to be at maximum 4,000 resources, and hopefully we can make it without actually looking at the Dragon's Claw, because I don't like looking at vehicles until I've managed to actually capture them over in the campaign, and since we haven't done that yet, I just feel like that would be a little bit cheaty. So, let's start off nice and simply by adding a local weapon controller, because I just want to see how this will work. So let's go ahead and add it there, that's fine. Remove that for a second, and then add the mainframe straight behind it, which means this local weapon controller is fully functional. The next thing we need to do, of course, is actually add the 2-axis turrets. So let's add one on the top, and then simply copy and paste it. So, how are we going to do this? Let's just make it quite small. Let's make it as small as we possibly can for the time being. So 2 thrusters, 3 thrusters, and then perhaps a little bit of armor on the front in case it bangs into the main body itself. Although, I think the turret does need a weapon to actually point at the enemy. This is something I learned when I built the sub-vehicles, like on our tanks. The Scar brand, for instance, which has one vehicle attached to the other, and the main vehicle has a turret to turn the other one. Now, missiles definitely work, although, is there a cheaper option, perhaps? Maybe even one of the simple weapons would work, since we're not actually adding a missile to this, once again lowering the cost. The ram wouldn't work, but let's try with small cannon. Let's see if this works. Can I place that like that? Yes, I can. Okay, so let's just spawn in an enemy to make sure we're actually pointing at the darn thing.
Turning off.
Ah, no. Oh, because of maximum range, of course, that's going to be the main problem there. Okay, so how about the laser weapon? That's the same cost as the missile, and I know the missile will definitely work, so controller, there we go. So now we're pointing at our target. Okay, so I will add 3 more of these turrets, which should hopefully make us able to turn a lot better than a single turret, and then I'll be right back. There we are, all of those should indeed point at the enemy, so next we do need an engine. But since this is just a proof of concept level, let's just go ahead, be lazy, and add a couple of RTGs. This is just nice and simple. Definitely not the best option, but I'm sure it will all be fine. And now I've added those, I'm now realizing I don't know where we want the center of mass. If we have it near the back, that would mean the back will always be lower than the front, and the front will sort of lead the drone. If we have it too far forwards, then it will simply flip, surely. I actually don't know. That's a little bit of physics where my mind isn't really loading it correctly. That was a very weird way to say that, but hopefully you got the point anyway. Speaking of points, let's do this, because having all that exposed is really, really annoying me. There we go. And then we simply put the nuke in here. Nice and nestled. Maybe a bit further out. In the future, we will have a control block, which will detonate the nuke if we get close enough to the enemy, so we don't have to rely on pure physical impact. Okay, so here's the thing. With the thrusters, we do need to set up the AI, but would it be better to not actually have an aerial AI, but rather have a control block so that the thrusters are always firing, so that they don't randomly turn off when this thing tries to turn, because otherwise these thrusters will... I don't even know how these thrusters will react to having an aerial AI. So for now, let's go with the easier option, because the easier option tends to be the best, because the easier is simpler, and the simpler has less room for error. So all of these thrusters are being put onto the input selection, the complex controller section here, for G. So there we go, there we go, there we go, and there we go. Then all we need is a control block to say, turn them on. So where are you, control block? There we are. And you... Control, G would be 7, right? Because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah, it's 7. Okay, actually got that right. Kind of surprised. And when do we want it to activate? Constantly? Or, oh no, of course not, because if we're going to be making these, it would be a lot better if... Where are you? If the enemy range is less than maximum, so as long as there's an enemy somewhere, the thrusters should be firing. Sounds reasonable? Sounds reasonable to me. Okay, so the next thing then is we're going to need an actual amount of power, so let's go ahead and add some batteries. This kind of looks like one of those ion thrusters. Don't you think? Looks like we just made a larger ion thruster, and then attaching to this, we'll have the electric engine. Yeah, we definitely need to go ahead and, instead of using electric, just use a regular fuel engine, because that's just silly. But yeah, that should work, I think. Let's just save the design before testing it, and then test it. The design is saved, and we've just spawned in a duster from the Deepwater Guard. So there we go, let's spawn this thing in. And let's see how it goes. Well, it is actually going towards the target, which is very nice. And... impact! Okay, that was actually pretty perfect. It even intercepted the enemy. Okay, then let's try something a little bit more challenging, just to see how we do with turning. Meet the flying squirrel. And ignore salvage, please, my lovely little minion. Yeah, it takes a while to get to full speed, which is a little bit annoying. Oh, you missed it, but you turned around wonderfully. Okay, I can see why this type of movement is being used for melee vehicles. That turn was ridiculous. And this is why we need a control block for detonations. We have sort of merged with the squirrel. Okay, try again, buddy. Ooh, what on earth went wrong there? Have you took some damage? I'm assuming yes, because that was definitely a very weird flight pattern. There we go. You nuked its butt off. Like, you actually almost perfectly halved it. Okay, that wasn't too bad, actually. A few problems, but for a little test vehicle, that was okay. Now testing with a little bit more weight on the back. Let's see how this affects its balance. And once again, apparently too close to the explosion, but yeah, that was absolutely perfect. Only its tail remained. So let's spawn that in again and see if the same thing happens. Now, of course, when we go to the campaign, this thing will actually need a proper detection system as well, because currently we are in the creative mode, in which I always have this set up. Automatic detection accuracy, and I normally have it between 0.9 and 1, which means all ships can see each other. This means as I'm building and testing things, I don't have to constantly put in detection systems, because that would just be really, really irritating. Hello, Drake. Go! Please don't hit me with a missile. Well, bang. Now go and hug the Drake. There we go. You didn't even kill it. You are a disappointment to the family. So here's one thought. At the moment, because we are using regular thrusters, it means we can't target anything which is underneath the water, because the thrusters will simply turn off as soon as they hit the water, and then we're sort of stuck. This will also go for any ships in which we miss with the initial attack. So, what are the alternatives to thrusters? Well, the alternatives are either dedicated Hellblade spinners or ion thrusters. The problem is, I would like to go with ion thrusters because that means we could even use this in space, but they are 100 resources each, and nowhere near as powerful. A regular jet engine, maximum force is 500, a ion thruster max force is only 150. So, I think we're going to go with dedicated Hellblade spinners, and we're going to see how that turns out. That actually works. Okay, kind of surprised by that. Let's see if it will actually turn, though, considering how weirdly placed this is. There we are, there we are, there we are. Put this in reverse mode, so maximum motor drive and continuous reverse, and on G. So, spawn an enemy for a second. What I actually meant was instant spin. There we go, so maximum speed straight away. Okay, that should work, I think. Let's find out. And there go the dedicated Hellblade spinners. A lot more rocky, but that's not a bad thing, because really that means it's going to be a lot harder to hit with any type of shell. Now, if we had the control block set up, that would have detonated then. It's like an evil fly. My god, you can imagine this thing banging against the window trying to get out. The rot fly returns. Okay. That's really disturbing to watch, actually. It's almost killing the enemy without setting off its nukes, which is interesting. I think it's just too light, so it's being just thrown around by the lightest touch. Okay, that's just weird. That is so weird. I guess we could spawn in another one. More nukes, always the answer. Can one of you please detonate? There we go! That was weird. Really, really weird. Okay, a few more tests later, and I think I've got it to where I like it currently. So, it's still random as hell when it comes to movement, but it does now go towards the target more consistently. Though, honestly, like I was saying before, that really sporadic kind of turning everywhere constantly will throw off a lot of cannons and a lot of detection systems. And now it goes boom far more reliably. Very happy with that. Now here's the question, can it work if I spawn it underwater? Currently, it does have a bit too much wood, so it will try and float. Okay, that's incredibly slow, but it is working, so yeah, that means it will go towards submarines and ships if it gets in the water. Slowly. Very slowly, but how about if it needs to go above the water? Well, yep, that definitely worked. Okay, really happy with this now. I think this is the base for our final design. Definitely going with the rotor blades over the thrusters. Splish. Okay, so I've got to be honest, having them start off in the water and then suddenly jump out and then hit the underside of one of the airships is kind of awesome, honestly. I can also imagine it being really effective against the underside of ships. In fact, let's go ahead and spawn in the perforator. There we are. As soon as it loads in, it will take a second because of 30,000 volume. Well, that's sort of terrifying. Well, anyway, there you are. Let's spawn in the test nuke version 2, which of course is the rotor blade version. And let's see what happens here. I think, though, if we did have it as an underwater version, we would need more rotor blades, just a little bit more speed to it, because that is very slow. It's hard to tell. Did we just hit it? Yes, we did. Underwater nuke. Oh, we've messed up its shields. We must have took out one of the engines. Whoa, yes we did. Look at that. How are your shields doing, buddy? Still flickering on and off. So, yeah, that is really cool, actually. But of course, the idea of this thing is to keep on spawning them, so every time one dies, a new one gets created and so on and so forth, as a sort of pseudo-weapon. Yeah, that's the strength of nukes. Nukes do so much better against very expensive, very compact enemies. So things like the perforator here, well, as you can see, that took out a very large cost. Okay, so on the Bloodthirster itself, first of all, we want the vehicle blueprint spawner. We want it to be spawning in the test nuke V2. There we are. Spawns to preserve 1, maximum lifetime spawns, absolute maximum. Hold it until it's completely built, and don't build it anywhere near me, because otherwise when the nukes go off, we may end up hurting ourselves. Nuking yourself, normally not the best idea in the world. Okay, let's just put these down, like so. So then the final thing we're going to need is, once again, a glorious controller block. And I want you to... Where are you? The thing I'm looking for currently. Constructible spawners, spawn default vehicle, and only when there is actually an enemy available. So when the enemy range is less than 5,000. There we go. So that should spawn this little bugger in. Let's leave build mode for a second. Then as soon as it's built 100%, we should let go of it, and it should go on its merry little way. There we go, the nuke is off. Very slowly to start off with. Once again, we will swap to fuel engines, just so it doesn't have that ramp-up time, which is way too long. It will also make it a bit cheaper, since we don't really care about its fuel cost, because it's not going to live all that long, considering it's a suicide drone. It looks so derpy. Hello! Boom! Okay, now that that's dead, it should be spawning in a new one, and the cycle will repeat over and over until 10 times has actually occurred. Then we simply reset the blueprint spawners. And off it goes again. I think this is a really good idea, just because it's just a distraction. I'm fairly certain I saw a Ashes of the Empire craft do something similar to this. Or was it the... No, I think it was an Ashes of the Empire design. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I saw this in action. And of course, we could, instead of making the little suicide drones, which still need the control block, there we go, we could make proper fighters, just small planes with maybe a small missile or a small advanced cannon. Then every time it dies, the Bloodthirster simply brings it back to life. Of course, if we dedicated much to that, I would have to convert this into a proper aircraft carrier, which means losing a couple of weapons so that we can have some internal stuff, and so we don't go over the volume limit which I've set up for myself. Oh, it is like a derpy little fly. Go on. Go say hello to your friend. Very glad that we're using rotor blades here, and boom! Okay, that is a lot of fun. The closest you can get to having an actual nuke-based weapon in this game. Of course, each time it does this, it is costing me 4,000 resource, so let's go ahead and redesign the drone into something which looks a little bit better. After this one last time. And 2 damaged. Well, actually, I'm keen to see what happens here, because it will start spawning in our new little minion. So I guess it'll just let it drop. Sonar's there being dropped. And down it goes. Okay, getting very, very close now to a finished design. So let's respawn in an Atlas, and let's throw this one facing the wrong way over here. And there we go. So this one is using a very small fuel engine, and it even has its detection system completely operational. As now, as you can see, we've stopped overriding the default, which means things actually need the detection system. Let's try that again. This one also costs about half of the original version, which is pretty darn nice. And as you can see, the control block is working perfectly, which means the nukes do go off as soon as they're within 7 meters of an opponent. So no more random kind of glancing blows. And that's what happens to anyone who dares to betray the Legion. There's something really silly I've just figured out. Let's spawn in an enemy just for 1 second.
Turning off.
And then take manual control. Okay, this is really loud, but it's hard to see, but right now I am actually in complete control of where this nuke is going, because I can control all of the turrets manually. Let's see if we can hit the enemy. Oh, it's a bit hard to tell where we are, got to be honest. Okay, no, down, down, there we go, up, and... Yes! Well... I feel proper orky right now. Well, there we are at the end of the video. This is our finished prototype before I go ahead and try to make it look significantly better. Right now, it does look very, very orky. It's very all over the place, there's little bits of tech here and there, and I do oddly really like it, but I also concede it's not the most attractive thing in the universe, so there will be some work to make it look a little bit better. If I had some more time, what I would likely try to experiment with is having a single turret closer to the center of mass. This would likely allow it to stop spinning out so much, but it would also, I don't know, it would give it the sense that it's a little bit too organized. I do like the fact that when it's moving, it's kind of all over the place. Now, normally, this type of video wouldn't have been a video I would have actually ended up recording and putting on the channel, so I really do hope that you guys enjoy it, and the reason why I've done this today, a true science and building episode, is because sadly, over the weekend and on Friday, I am ridiculously busy. A survey is going on in my apartment building, which means my lovely landlord and his minions will be around pretty much all day checking pretty much everything, which isn't exactly going to be all that fun. In addition to this, our old fridge needs to be tore out and a new fridge put in, which is sadly right next to my recording area, so can't really record with all the noises going on, and then I have loads of things planned with the family and all sorts of stuff like that, which I simply can't avoid. It's a very busy few days, and sadly, not enough time to guarantee a From the Depths video, so here we are with this video after a lengthy explanation. So I really do hope you've enjoyed, and of course, if you you have, then likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. In the next episode, hopefully we will have a modified Bloodthirster, which can use these drones as a powerful and rather humorous weapon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.